I wrote some random things down from just places. Some of the where to start? They're all kind of tied together. They're just a bunch of piles. Fiction, and its main purpose being symbolism. So, one of the cool things about like storytelling, fantasy stories, and made up things, is like what is the strength of it versus say nonfiction, where you're just describing facts or learning about something. Like if you're learning about something that's going on in the world or a scientific something, just learning physics or just how finances work, something like that. If that's a thing, and it's the fastest way of learning about it, even like philosophical ideas and themes and complex stuff, then what is the strength that fiction and fantasy can bring that cannot do very well? Because if you wanted to like share a theme in fantasy, then wouldn't it just be easier to say what the theme is just directly type thing? So what
Right.
is the purpose of fantasy, or like its greatest strength? And I wrote a note somewhere else on there, but how it really is more about symbolism in terms of if you have something like a symbol or a way of seeing something through a story, then it is more transformative than knowing something. So like the knowledge, knowing a bunch of ideas and themes and a bunch of stuff about physics, etc., doesn't really help or change anything. But when you see how that stuff is applied to the world through a story that is telling you how these things are, it's like if you have a character that stands for something and they're going through a story and you see what that looks like and how that character is in some environment where they have this way of living or this belief or something, then it embodies something like a certain standpoint on, or like a certain knowledge base of like somebody who's being analytical means you break things down a lot into tiny pieces and the mind is at work and all this other stuff. If you have a story where a character is like that and you get to see what that's like, then then you get a sense of what being analytical is like. And then like somebody's like kind of flimsy and clumsy and they don't think about things much and they just intuitively move through things and they're kind of careless and make a lot of mistakes. It's like that's a way that somebody might be, but if you haven't really encountered that in real life or you don't really understand the depth of it, when you read a story or watch a story with a character who's very much like that, you get a way more, you're with them for that story and you get a better idea of what that is. So the fiction side of it, the story elements and fantastical, is able to give these symbolisms and these meanings to something that you legitimately cannot just explain it in words. Like it can't be just told what it's like. It's like you can be told what it's like and then that's so different from actually seeing it. And there's such a difference between you hear what it's like, that doesn't really change anything, but you know something now, versus you see what it's like, you intuitively get it. You might not be able to explain it, but now you can incorporate this thing, and it's almost like this symbol within you. It's like, oh yeah, that thing, you get it. It represents something, but it's not there.
I think it has to do with the diversity and the contrast that you get from, like, if someone writes about something and they're doing it from only one point of view, then you're not experiencing the whole essence of whatever it is that's being described. And when you have more of a life that's happening, and that is something is just experiencing being analytical or something, like, as an example, then you can look at that and you get much more of what analyzing is, or being analytical is, with different circumstance and the contrast, and then the different angles of everything that goes around that person.
I guess a really
Or that
crude,
thing.
basic example would be, like if you see a scene, or like Tony Stark is a billionaire playboy philanthropist, and Captain America is very, kind of righteous and doesn't like the way Tony Stark is about things. That, like, you can explain all that, but if you have a movie where Captain America's like, "What are you without the suit?" and Iron Man says these things, and like they say these words, they basically just describe what I just said. As like, this person is like this and this person's like this. But you see this whole movie, this whole story with them being like that. So you know what being a billionaire playboy philanthropist is, who is very egotistical and all this other stuff, and somebody who's really righteous and doesn't like that kind of thing coming from somebody who could do a lot of good. Like, you get to see that in action. And that's now, Captain America and Iron Man, they become these symbols. They're, when you think of those things, you don't just think of the definitions of like, yes, philanthropist, blah, 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 which you would just get if you just wanted to learn what being a philanthropist would be like. Then now you get to see it. It's like, oh yeah, philanthropist. This is one version of it when they're kind of a jerk to everybody, and they're a superhero and they're kind of floundering things, or like just whatever it is. You get to see this archetype, this symbol that represents what that is, and now people can refer to that instead of just say the words. It's like a combination of these definitions.